Good evening. I'm doing a recording illustrating a few of the features of JSTOR that will be of use for us in Math 401. First of all, to get to JSTOR, I need to go to the SJFC uh, homepage. Since I'm doing this from, well, actually, I think anywhere you do this from, it requires you to log in, so I'll do that. And now here we are. On the launch pad, we can go to the Lavery Library website. All right, cool. So, of course, you could search for articles if you knew the author, the title. You can search for subjects here if you know what subject you're working on. But I want to look specifically at this one database called JSTOR. So there is a link for databases A to Z. We can select that to find various subject-specific research databases that the library has a subscription for. And since we know the name of the one we're looking for, we can click on its first letter and be taken directly to a link for the JSTOR database. So I'm going to click on this. Well, first, I can see a description of what the JSTOR database has for us. And note that sometimes, depending on publisher restrictions, some of the more recent issues of a journal might not yet be available up online on this tool. So I'm going to click on JSTOR so we can go to their website. If you're doing this from off campus, like I am, you'll be asked to enter your Fisher username and your Fisher network password. If you're doing this from an on-campus machine or using the on-campus network, you probably won't be asked to authenticate your session. And so here I am at, it takes me directly to the advanced search, the advanced search page. And so there are search boxes I can enter words or phrases of things I'm going to search for. So here, I've been thinking about something known as Russian peasant multiplication. And so I'm going to do a search for those words in whatever fields in the database they match to. And if I click on the search button, the website works through its database a bit and returns about 35,000 results where the words Russian and peasant occur in the document. And unfortunately, as you might gather by looking at these first few titles, most of these are not going to be relevant for my work on the history of arithmetic. And so I probably need to refine my search, maybe by limiting it to a handful of specific subjects, or maybe even better, I could go back to the original search. And from the advanced search page, I do have the option of narrowing the type of item I'm looking for, so I could restrict myself to just articles or just books or just reviews of other articles or books. Probably restricting yourself to articles and books is a pretty reasonable thing. I'm pretty good at making sense of a lot of languages. Through painful experience, I've gotten better at that. So I usually don't restrict what language the article is that I get, but you may choose to do that if you want. If you're looking for articles from a particular time period, you could limit publication dates. If you know what journal the article appeared in, you could enter the journal title. It's usually not necessary. But actually, what I'm really excited about is the journal filter. I can narrow the search before I even enter the search. I could narrow it by discipline or even by individual journal. And so I'm going to look at this a little bit. There are a great many academic disciplines that are represented in JSTOR. I scrolled past it. Among them is education. So there are quite a few education journals that are represented here. And not so surprisingly, there are mathematics journals that are represented. So if I wanted to limit my search results just to mathematics journals, I could click that box and then go back up to the search box and redo my search, and I'm certain I'll get less than 35,000 hits, because I'm only going to get hits from math journals. If I want to be even pickier, I could select this arrow on the left, which will then open up the category of mathematics and let me pick individual journals. Um, so, for example, the American Mathematical Monthly is a journal that's aimed at undergraduate faculty and undergraduate students at American universities and colleges. So this is going to give me material that um, uh, that's going to be accessible for me, as opposed to a lot of these other journals are a little more high end, a little more um, PhD level type journals, and uh, I may or may not be able to understand those articles depending on their subject area. Um, and so another journal that's quite valuable is the College Mathematics Journal. And the way they've laid this out, they have the College Math Journal from '84 to 2017. It was also known as the two-year College Mathematics Journal from 1970 to 1983. It had originally been a journal devoted to mathematical topics for community college courses and courses in the first 2 years of undergraduate work more generally. And starting in 1984, they broadened their scope to really encompass all of the undergraduate math curriculum. So they're often this is often a very good source for articles and research material or ideas for new research or new capstone type projects. Math Horizons is I guess I would call it a magazine more than a research journal. The articles in there tend to be maybe 2 or at most 3 pages long. They usually don't have big, long bibliographies. And the emphasis here is on really high quality expository writing. And usually there'll be 1 or 2 articles per issue that give an overview of a new math topic or of a new application of math, recent news, that kind of thing. It's worth glancing in there and seeing if you might find anything that catches your interest. The Mathematical Gazette is another journal article, or another journal, I should say, that is aimed at high school and college mathematicians and math educators and students. This is from the British Mathematical Association, and they're the quality of the work in there is quite good. Mathematics Magazine, which is a continuation of the Mathematics Newsletter, and then the National Mathematics Magazine is a publication of the MAA that's aimed at undergraduate mathematicians and students and faculty. Mathematics Teacher is an NCTM journal aimed mostly at high school math teachers. Math Teaching in the Middle School is another NCTM journal aimed mostly at middle school teachers. So talking about classroom ideas, and sometimes you'll find articles on the intellectual or conceptual background behind something that all the middle school teachers are teaching. But sometimes you'll have sort of enrichment activities, or here's a little more background on the history of something you're doing, or just an interesting way to solve a particular type of problem that you might not have seen before. The Pi Mu Epsilon Journal is a journal that comes out twice a year, and it features articles written by college students. Pi Mu Epsilon is a math honor society at the college level in the U.S., and so Pi Mu Epsilon members are encouraged to submit their own work for publication to this journal. So you might find articles that are based on other students' capstone projects at this school or at other schools appearing in this journal. And so sometimes that can be a good source for ideas of problems or projects that are interesting to maybe build on, take someone else's work and try to extend it or try to take it into a different direction. Something like that could be really cool. There are a couple more I wanted to highlight here. Teaching Children Mathematics is an NCTM journal aimed at the elementary school grades. So if you're trying to find something related to, teaching algebraic reasoning in a third grade classroom and what that might look like, you're going to find articles on that here. Sometimes, often I'm looking here for things that were written by teachers or teacher educators on the history of arithmetic. So sometimes that's a place where I'm finding neat stuff. So anyway, here's a sort of the highlights of the journals that are available in JSTOR that are probably the most helpful or most relevant for you as you're perusing journals, trying to find ideas potentially for a capstone project. So I've selected a handful of journals that I want to restrict my search to. And now if I select search for my Russian peasant keywords, now I only have 92 search results instead of, what was it, 35,000, something like that. And just glancing at the first few article titles, I can see that I'm definitely getting articles that are mathematical and relevant to what I'm interested in. With any JSTOR article, you can click on the article name and be taken to a page that gives a little more information about the article. So here I have on the left an image of the front cover of the journal that it's appearing in. On the right, the article itself is appearing within the web page, and I can scroll through the various pages of this article, and so I can get a quick glance at it right away and see if this is going to be useful to me or not. If it is, I could then choose to download a PDF copy of the journal article and save it on my hard drive and have it for later reference and work. Also, you'll have bibliographic information on this article screen. You might have noticed on the search page, if I go back to that, so what I had just shown you was what happens if you click on the title of an article. If I click on the author name, of course, what I'll end up getting is a search where I'm searching for all articles whose author matches this name. And that would include articles where there were multiple authors, as long as at least one of them was Beverly Gimstad. There are keyword topics that I could click. Those also launch other sorts of searches. And finally, I can download the PDF directly from this original search page if I wish. If I can tell from the title that it's probably going to be relevant and I'm just trying to get through a long list of search results, I might download the PDF, save it in a folder, and wait to actually look at the details of it another day or something. All right, so that's how this game can be played. If you know what you're looking for, either a keyword or a phrase or the title of the article or an author name, the search box can work really well for you with that. And in that respect, this is kind of like doing a Google search, except if you're doing the search within this database and you're logged into it through the Fisher Library, you're guaranteed that the results they'll show you are documents that you can see in full, that you can save as PDFs. You're not going to get a hit to something that's behind a paywall that you can't get through, and so that's a worthwhile thing. Now, the other significant thing you can do with JSTOR is you can browse articles by publisher, if you know who published something, by title, or by subject. And by subject is probably what is going to be most useful for us. Back in the day, if a student was interested in finding a problem to work on to try to find ideas for a capstone project, um, you might well decide to have them go to the library and look at some recent issues of magazines and journals and see if there were any articles that caught their eye, topics that they were interested in. And then you could build from there and say, okay, you found this article interesting. Why don't you go through the references in the bibliography, see what else you can find out. In the digital era, it's much harder to go and do that sort of skimming through topics. So here, from the main JSTOR page, we hit browse by subject, and all the different possible subject areas are listed grouped together by theme. And in the science and mathematics section, there's a link for mathematics. If I click on that, we're going to come back to that list of journal titles that are available within JSTOR. So the American Mathematical Monthly, the where is it? The College Mathematics Journal, and so on. There are any math journal that I might want, if it's in JSTOR, is going to show up in this list. And if I wanted to browse through and just sort of leaf through a recent copy of the College Math Journal, this is where I would do it on JSTOR. I'm going to click on the link for College Math Journal, and I'll be taken to a web page or a JSTOR page which talks about this journal within JSTOR. So here the period that JSTOR has access to in terms of years, in terms of volume numbers, information about who publishes the journal, that it's one of the publications of the Mathematical Association of America. And then I have access to every single issue of this journal that's in their database, organized in time. So, maybe I'm interested in, let's just pick an issue at random. Maybe the issue from January 2014. If I click on that link, it's going to take me to that issue of the journal, but in a way that's efficient. It's going to take me to a web page, which essentially is giving me a table of contents for the journal. Each item in the journal is then a link or to either loading that document on screen like we saw before, or downloading a PDF of it. So the front matter of the journal would be, like the inside front cover, the whatever legalese is printed there. This particular journal issue opens with a letter from the editor about constancy and change, which sounds mathematical, but I'm going to guess, since this is the January issue, they probably just changed editors. And so here's the new editor talking about what's going to change for the journal and what's staying the same, something like that. And then articles, collection of articles. And this is probably what we're most interested in. So if you're looking for a topic, you might glance at titles and see if any of them catch your eye. Correspondence between geometric and differential definitions of the sine and cosine. That actually sounds really interesting to me, because some of my earlier research had to do with pre-calculus textbooks from the 18th century, and the way they talked about trig functions, and some instances of circular reasoning in those kinds of things. So this is actually an article that I think I might be interested in looking at. So I'm going to try to remember to come back to that. And this particular journal, you have quite a few options, and this is just in one issue. An article on traveling ways in Taylor series, an article on gambler's ruin in playing roulette, so a bit of sort of probability and game theory going on. Second order recurrences with non-consecutive initial conditions. So this is looking at solving a discrete dynamical system kind of equation. This particular journal then also publishes some classroom capsule type articles that give sort of teaching tips or interesting examples that might come up in someone's classes. And then there's smaller sections towards the end challenge problems and their solutions that people post for fun, typically book and article reviews, film reviews in this case, um, and then just other information that the Mathematical Association of America is publishing in their journal. So if you find an article and the title sounds interesting, you could click on the article, and again, you'll be taken to a page similar to the one we saw before. You've got the title of the article, you've got the cover of that issue of the magazine, and usually you're going to have some sort of a description of the article, or you'll have the first page of the article, depending. So here, with this particular edition, we're not seeing the article on screen, but we do get to see the summary of the article. And from that summary, I think I'm interested in it. And it appears that the only way I can actually read the article is to download the PDF, so I'll go ahead and do that. JSTOR asks me to accept the terms and conditions that I have to confess I haven't read. But once I accept them, it'll start downloading. And I'm pretty sure what the terms and conditions actually say is something like, I agree not to post a copy of this on the internet, not to share it with other people, things of that sort. So typically a JSTOR PDF has a cover page which has some information about the publishers, and their trademarks appear, bibliographic information, and then some small print and legalese to let you know that this actually came from JSTOR. They also put a footer in which links this particular PDF document to my computer at this IP address and a session at this specific time. So that's their way of helpfully reminding me that if I were to share this PDF with other people, they would eventually figure it out and could respond accordingly. And then finally, we get the beginning of the article, and it's a handful of pages long, so I could read this on screen. I could save it to my computer. I could download it and save it in a folder. I could print it, what have you. I think those are the main things that we wanted to see on JSTOR. So I feel like we're pretty good here. Maybe I'll put this list back up of the journals that are on JSTOR that I suspect are going to be most useful for finding mathematical topics for research. Oh, it just occurs to me I should probably hunt down good statistics journals as well. Let me think about that and see what I come up with. But for now, let's let it go at this. I'm going to post on Blackboard a follow-up homework assignment to this video that we're doing in lieu of our class meeting on Friday. And that assignment's going to involve asking you to go out, use JSTOR to find a variety of things and to report back on what you find. Anyway, thank you very much, and we will see you a week from Friday. So that's the 21st. If there are questions between now and then, just drop me an email, and we'll be in touch. All right, take care.